This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello, welcome to this latest edition of Red Side of the Trent, here to bring you the latest news and comings and goings of Nottingham Forest. We're going to get into Ola Aina signing a new deal, Edu Gaspar finally joining the club as global head of football, whatever that might entail. Obviously, a link to Johan Bakayoko, who already could have one of the best songs ever if he signs. Ramon Sosa going to Palmeiras and Anthony Elanga going to Newcastle. A little bit more on that as we covered that in the last pod. Christian Brown and Reece Lane join me as ever. Christian, how are we? First of all, rocking a lovely Columbia shirt.
Yeah, all good here. Thank you, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very, very good. Reece, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good as ever. Obviously, breaking news came yesterday. The major headline of the pod was Ola Aina signing a new long-term deal. Keeps him here till 2028, which is absolutely brilliant news. Christian, obviously one of the fullbacks of the season last year until we got his injury. How good is that to hear? And obviously now does it kind of take a little bit of pressure off him in terms of his performances going forward because he hasn't got to play for a contract? It kind of works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, obviously that's a difficult one to call because obviously it can go the other way. But no, I think it's great news for Forest. It's great news for the club. It's great news for Aina as well. He seems very settled at Forest. Seems very happy. Obviously, you see him on the videos. I mean, he obviously seems quite a jovial personality anyway. But he seems genuinely just loves being at the club, and that's something that you can't really put much money on, really. The fact his performances back that up is even better because, like you said, he was one of the best right backs in the league last season. It feels like it's fallen into place for him finally in his career. I think he's 28 now. And yeah, we're massive beneficiaries of that. Obviously, Man City were linked for a while. It looked like the longer it's obviously we've sort of heard for a while that he was going to extend his contract, but nothing was ever announced. But yeah, finally it's now happened, and yeah, big sigh of relief. I think we now need to find a capable deputy for him, especially given he'll probably be off, likely collecting his 50th Nigeria cap this season over at AFCON. So we need to make sure we've got someone in reserve for him when he goes away for that. But yeah, brilliant news for Forest. If you wanted to replace him, it would cost you a lot of money. So to keep him at the club is great news.
Yeah, Reece, just like some added comments there. Obviously, you forget that he actually brings quite a wealth of experience coming through Chelsea's academy and obviously playing on the continent in Italy and playing a lot of caps for Nigeria. But obviously, Vibes Cartel leader, which is also massively important. And he reiterated that in his interview about the love for his teammates, love for the fans and good spirit and that around the dressing room. So how important is that also off the pitch as well as his ability on it?
Yeah, well, you seen that today, didn't you, in the video with Nuno? It's like Nuno, they're like his children, aren't they? Aina and Hudson-Odoi, bless them. So obviously it's a shame we're going to be losing one in Elanga, but no, it's great business. Free transfer, he's repaid that already with his performances over the last two seasons, especially last season. We missed him in the period when he did get injured, and then we probably rushed him back, really, and he was kind of half fit because quick cover, didn't we? Zach Abbott played there against Manchester City in the FA Cup semi, and he did a decent job, Zach, but he's not a right back. So, yeah, brilliant for him to sign because, like Christian just said, if I know he's still got that year deal, but with a year left on someone's deal, someone could stick a cheeky bid in there of not a lot of money. So to get him tied down for 3 years, Nico, the same as we mentioned before on his pods, is brilliant business. So we've got both his fullbacks tied down, and now we hope we can get Hudson-Odoi tied down because he's only got a year left, and also Morgan Gibbs-White as well because he's only got 2. So yeah, very pleased to see him stay. Good news that was yesterday.
Yeah, Callum Hudson-Odoi rocking a Cisco kind of hairstyle with that blonde look. I mean, maybe he'll play like a bit of a Samba sort of player. I mean, great, absolutely brilliant start to the summer in some aspects. Adding Nico Williams to a new deal, Ola Aina to a new deal, two of the best fullbacks in the leagues last season. So yeah, hopefully we can get Morgan Gibbs-White done. Obviously, we got Chris Wood done last season, which was brilliant, and Murillo. So it's good that we're keeping a spy on the team. I just wanted a quick comment, both of you, for the new trading kit. It gives off Fawaz's 150th year anniversary vibes, and I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. Any player that springs to mind when you see that trading kit? Mine was like Robert Tesh, I think.
Oliveira for that red and gold kit, I think, is always the one in it against Derby.
Yeah.
I think it springs to mind. It was a nice kit. That was. It was just a shame it had obviously Fawaz's name splattered on it, and it was his 150th year, and we did nothing for it, didn't we? Because of how the club was run at the time, which was a real shame. But it is what it is now. Any
thoughts, Christian?
Yeah, these shades of like Ryan Mendes, I think. Obviously, remember him darting down the left wing in that kit. Yeah, him, Oliveira, and lesser known quantities such as Chris O'Grady, Liam Trotter, and Kyle Vasilio, which all spring to mind from that era. No, it's more. I think it's more of a Spain feel, to be honest, than it is a Forest 2015-16 feel. And if we can start playing like the Spanish national team, that'd be great, wouldn't it? But I have to see how this season goes, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just moving swiftly on. So Edu Gaspar also announced as head of football, Christian. I mean, it's a new role, as the club has reiterated. It means he's going to oversee all of the Marinakis kind of empire of Olympiacos, Forest, Rio Ave. I believe he keeps trying to buy a Brazilian club as well. So I'm sure there's that going to be thrown into it at some point. What do you make of that? Obviously, we've prized him away from Arsenal, and there's obviously comments there from Arsenal fans and Forest fans about what he did in the transfer market for Arsenal in terms of not getting a striker over the line, which possibly has cost them the league in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Quite, if you want to argue about it till the cows come home, sort of thing. What do you make of that, and how good is it to see Forest prize someone away from a big club like Arsenal in itself?
Yeah, obviously. Let's start at the latter point. I think to prize Edu away from Arsenal is a huge coup for Forest and Marinakis. I think that, that's it. It highlights how ambitious he is and how we are as a club, and how he sort of sees things moving forward. That Edu wanted a piece of that because, obviously he was part of the Invincible team at Arsenal, I'm pretty sure. Obviously he won quite a fair bit there as a player. Stepped in as a manager, drastically changed the first team round, so it is what it is today, effectively. So yeah, from that aspect, very, very pleasing. Obviously, living where I do, I know a lot of Arsenal fans, and they have some very interesting views on Edu Gaspar, and some very interesting memes as well, which hopefully will not be used. But I think it seemed to me that Arteta was starting to get more and more control over transfers, especially in the last 2 seasons. I mean, if you look, the bloke signs more goalkeepers and attackers. I mean, I think if you include loans, I think Arsenal have had 6 attacking players in about 5 years, and like one load of Sterling on loan, which is absolutely remarkable. One of them was Marquinhos as well. So I don't think they were linked with Igor Jesus, they were linked with Danilo before we signed him as well. So it feels like we won't be looking along the same sort of areas as Edu, but Arteta wasn't having any of it for whatever dual fantasy related reason. So but no, it's certainly a plus for the club. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, obviously, we signed Jesus pretty much. I mean, he's been unofficially working for the club, it feels like, for a fair while, Edu. Igor Jesus signs, so literally within days he's got a striker through the door, which something Arsenal weren't able to do since, do we count Havertz as a striker? Probably not, maybe Jesus. So you're looking at 3 years to find Arsenal bought a striker. So I think it is more an Arteta thing rather than an Edu thing. Obviously, there were other issues. No transfer is going to go smoothly, but pros far outweigh the cons. I'm excited to see what we can do now he's officially in the door, and hopefully, we can just keep moving forwards as a club.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Reece, do you see it as a bit of a trailblazing kind of setting of this new appointment? Because it's a new role, as Forest put out on their website, and it's someone that's overlooking multiple clubs, which is obviously something that's become a thing in the last 10 years or so, where owners own several clubs. You look at Man City with Girona, New York City, I think Melbourne City, I think they've got Palermo as well, I believe. Someone might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, Girona. So it's kind of we could be setting a trend here, really, with this appointment. And it's something different, I guess, for Edu. And we've already seen something kind of work in Sheriff Yaya coming from Rio Ave into Forest. It's kind of like that Football Manager thing where you've got an affiliate and you nick one of their better players, but we'll see if that actually comes to any fruition, I suppose, in the future, because he signed for the B team, hasn't he?
Mm. Well, I think these businessmen, they like to build kind of an empire of clubs now. Like you said, Manchester City have got theirs. I mean, even Leicester. So Tony Bloom at Brighton, he's got Union in Belgium. He's now invested in Hearts, it is, I believe. So they're kind of all at it. And I think it does help, to be honest, with PSR as well, because you can kind of move things about from both clubs, as you see with our relationship with Olympiacos. But, you know, Edu went in at Arsenal, and with Arteta, look, Arsenal were not long ago pretty middle of the road side, weren't they? Let's be honest. There was, you know, them latter spaces for Europe, and he's got Arteta and him as a team, and with others as well, have got them challenging the title for the title every season. I know they've not won it yet, and I'm quite surprised he didn't really see that journey through. Whether that's Arteta's influence, if he wants to kind of take over more on the transfer side, but yeah, it's obviously a coup coming from a club, you know, as big as Arsenal, and overseeing this like empire what Marinakis is trying to build. So yeah, hopefully it'll be good for us, mainly because we all support Forest, so we want to see the benefits for us rather than probably the group because of his bias. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an interesting one. We'll see what it does in the transfer market as we go. But Nick Ample on YouTube has put, it seems that Marinakis is going into a cooperation agreement with John Textor at Botafogo to take over their academy, with priority for Forest to get young talent and Botafogo getting other talent. So there seems to be a very weird relationship with John Textor and Marinakis. Obviously, we've seen the whole thing with Palace, Leon. I mean, we've been linked with Malik Fofana. I know you'd love to have been linked with Mika Tadze and Thiago Almeida, but we'll find out. I think it's tomorrow what Leon's outcome is, obviously, of getting relegated to League Two, and whether that means Palace playing Europa League or we do. I don't know. It still seems a bit all up in the air. But moving swiftly on, Reese, it looks like Ramon Sosa is going to go to Palmeiras reportedly for a fee of $14 million, which I think is probably about £11 million maybe, or something like that, which is it's absolutely crazy to see him go after 1 year with all the saga we made of trying to get him out of Talares, and then he didn't really get a chance. I never thought it was like from a lack of ability, to be honest, when I ever watched him, but I just maybe thought we've progressed far too fast for him. I think we've reiterated that on the podcast before, haven't we?
Yeah, well, with his age, like if he's coming in, say at 21, you can kind of probably give him a season to bed in. But what I think he's 25, is he 24, 25? So you kind of want him to come in at that age, really. I know he's coming from South America and kind of hit the ground running. I think in the appearances, most of them that he did play was probably against lesser sides, and he did look all right. But the truth of the matter is we don't watch him in training every day. Nuno's the man who does that. And it was clear, really, that Nuno just didn't fancy him for one reason or another. So at the end of the day, there's no point in persevering with him if the manager doesn't fancy him. You know, if that deal goes through, it will get us his money back. And then we obviously look to improve in that area with, you know, getting someone who can come in on that side with Hudson-Odoi and compete for that shirt with him. Because that's what it's about this season in the transfer market. It's about bulking this squad out with some quality who Nuno does trust and can come in and offer us something because of the amount of games we're expected to have, especially if we qualify for the Conference League group stage. So, yeah, I think that's one of them. You kind of say, look, it hasn't worked, but we've got his money back. We shake hands. Everyone wishes each other well, and we move on. And hopefully we can get someone in better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 254 people here with us across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is the first time where we've done it across all the platforms. So if you're new here, drop us a like, drop us a subscription. It all helps very much.
Behind the times, aren't we?
We are behind the times, and it's free, obviously. So no, it's great. And Christian, obviously, it's great that you're wearing a Colombia shirt, because we have been linked with, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong with his first name, I'm just going to call him Richard. Richard Rios, who's the centre midfielder from Palmeiras, 25-year-old. And you have reiterated that he would pretty much slot straight into the Premier League because of how he's been playing internationally. What can you tell us about him from what you've seen of him? And is he someone that could come into Forest and play a role, basically, because we are potentially needing another central midfielder if Danilo is to go to Leon, if they get reinstated back into Liga?
Yeah, obviously I haven't watched much Brazilian football, so I can't tell you how he's playing for Palmeiras. But when he's played for Colombia, he's been very good. He was one of the best players at Copa America last year, and obviously at the Club World Cup. Not that I've been watching much of it, like Reece, I couldn't really care less about it. But from what I have seen, it sounds like he's having a very good tournament over there as well. A very competent midfielder, gets stuck in, good eye for a pass. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether he suits for Premier League. I'm sure Nathan could probably give you more of an insight into that. But because even as we know, international football slowed in the Premier League, for example. But it's yeah, he looks very, very at home in a good team. So we'll have to see, obviously, on that front. I personally don't think that's going to happen. See, Inter Milan are in for him now, it looks like. So I suspect he'll probably go there. But yeah, that sort of gives you an indication of how good he is if a team of that stature want him as well. So we'll have to see on that front.
Yes, definitely. I mean, just the last thing that we are going to touch on, and it is a link to Johan Bakayoko, obviously on the back of Anthony Elanga going to Newcastle. I would like to think that we've been chasing down this sort of deal or someone to replace Elanga pretty quickly, because why would you let two wingers go when you needed three others anyway to come in, Christian? This sounds like a really good replacement. I mean, we said it the other day, £20 million it could be for a right winger, a left-footed right winger, which I think would provide us with a lot of balance. Do you think if we got someone like him in, that it changes our style of play slightly, because we haven't got that electric pace on the counter attack that Elanga's going to kind of leave us with?
I mean, we still will be quick. I mean, if you look at the rest of the team, like, Aina, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, for example, these aren't slow players. It just, obviously, there's not Elanga levels of quick. I mean, Elanga, like I said to you before, I think I saw his 100-meter time is like 10:4 or something. That's not far off Olympic standard. In fact, that probably is early Olympic heat standards. So, he's a genetic freak in that regard in terms of how quick he can run. So you aren't going to get many of them to the pounds. But it doesn't necessarily mean we're a slow team apart from that. But Bakayoko obviously is no slouch from what I've seen of him, like on the Champions League nights and stuff like that. He moves the ball very quickly. He reminds me a lot of Jeremy Doku in terms of how he beats his opponent, except for he's got much better end products. Uses both feet very well, it looks like, as well, but obviously he's predominantly left-footed. Yeah, he looked like he'd be a right find. Obviously, you sort of have to question. It is Dutch league, of course, and is a huge step up. Obviously, we've seen that. Not obviously Sangara's had his injuries, for example, but it's it's still a big step up. For example, to go from that one league to the other. For every Luis Suarez, for example, you get a Davy Klaassen and about 10 Davy Klaassens, for example. So we'll have to see if that does come to anything. But yeah, on paper, fantastic appointment. It's just whether we can obviously convince him to sign. Because obviously last year we tried for him. I know obviously we were 17th then. He had no interest. He wanted to go to a title competing side. It seems like he's been frozen out of PSV over a contract dispute, hence why Ivan Perisic, remember him, has been playing right wing instead of him. And that might also explain why his numbers are slightly down. I think he started like 19 games, I think, for PSV last season. So, but obviously, if he's told that he isn't going to stay, then I kind of get their stance on that matter, especially with 18 months left in his contract, or 12 now. But yeah, be very exciting move. Percy seems to think it'd be 30 million, I think, to get him out. But even if it is 30 million, you're still looking at banking 25 in profit from Elanga. So it helps the club. It gives you a ready-made replacement straight off the bat. And so you're basically looking, as we were for depth players, but with 20 million extra in the bank and another first-team start in the building. So we'll have to see. Obviously, keep seeing like I'm saying that a lot today. But Sangare, hopefully can have a word. Matt Sells, hopefully can have a word. Belgian teammate. How we even get Oral Mangala on the phone as a former Belgian team, as a Belgian teammate, to sort of say about Forest. Just pull out all the stops, give him the full red carpet treatment, and get him down. Because I think he'll be a very, very good signing. Even now, you've got what's it, Dortmund went in for him. Monaco are in for him, Marseille are supposedly in for him. I still think that we can offer him a better package, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I don't think he'd start at Dortmund, probably wouldn't start at Marseille. And Monaco, yeah, okay, he might start there, but it's a dead league. The league's done by November. So you're basically playing for third place, which is that really, and obviously it's to live in Monaco and whatever else, but is that really, I don't know, is it really much of a pull? We'll see. But I think we can offer him a competitive package, and hopefully that's enough to get the job done. It'd be a very, very good signing.
Yeah, lots of people in the comments, Nick and Paul Logan, are saying, been confirmed by Ben Jacobs, that we are in talks with PSV for Bakayoko. I mean, Reece, do you think it's a good deal? For me, it kind of almost says like, if Elanga's going, there's a spot there to be straight away taken. Do you know what I mean? I think that's an easy offer for a player that's coming in saying, well, you're going to play straight away because our right winger has just gone to Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's quite an easy sell, really, in some respects. We're in Europe. I think we mentioned this in our WhatsApp group, actually, like, we're a good club to people to come to, young players to come to and thrive, play in front of a decent crowd with enough pressure on you, because Forest fans can be unforgiving, as we all know, with scope, with ambition as well.
Yeah, it's just like Christian says, if he can come over and transition from the Eredivisie, really, that is the be all and end all. I'm just thinking of a manager in Arne Slot. It'd be nice if he had come in and had that impact, wouldn't he? From a player perspective, but yeah, we've got, you did not move quickly, but I'm kind of glad this Elanga thing is going to come to an end quickly, because then we can move on. It's not like we're going to get dragged towards the start of the season and thinking, oh, is he going to go? Is he not going to go? Like kind of what we had with Brennan Johnson, really, where, he went on the last day of the deadline day, and then we ended up signing about half a dozen players, wasn't it? So, yeah, the Elanga move happening is going to probably get us arses into gear what we're going to do next. Clearly, the club have got a plan, because as we're going to come on to Elanga in a minute, it wasn't like Elanga had demanded he wanted to go anything. So clearly the club have got a plan, and we'll have to hope they can see that through. And Bakayoko, it'd be a nice start, but it's if he can come from that league and transition over, really, until he gets here and we see him play, we're probably not going to know that. But he's a long-term target for the club, so they obviously believe he can do.
Do you like any of the other links that we've been? I think we've been linked with Akaluche from Monaco as well. I think there's been a few others dotted about in terms of. I mean, we've already obviously been rejected by Bangula and George Ware, Timothy Ware. So there's definitely players out there. I think it's just about getting the right one, I guess.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, I watch a bit of foreign leagues in Europe and I follow these leagues, but I don't really watch a lot of these players. You're basically looking at stats, aren't you, on a sheet? That's what's kind of telling you, and you're looking at things and you're thinking, oh, his stats look good, his stats look poor. Why I obviously said about Mikatadze is that I saw him in the Euros for Georgia and I thought he was excellent. So he was someone who really liked look of. Almada, I've seen him a few times for Argentina, for example. So the club's a multi-million-pound business. They'll have scouts all over the place. They'll have every stat they need to know, so they'll know more than us. And you just got to trust them, really. Trust the process, isn't it? They've made this decision that they're going to sell Elanga. They believe it's the right decision, and they're obviously going to, because we needed two wingers, didn't we, before we even thought about selling Elanga and Sousa. So we need three now, and yeah, we're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Paulo Ferreira at the head of the helm of head of scouting for Forest, coming from Benfica and some of the players he brought in, I would like to think there might be a bit of an ace up his sleeve, I guess. But we'll see.
There's going to be scouts everywhere, aren't they? All over the world now. So,
of course, there is. Just to round off the pod, this is obviously a quick roundup before probably the weekend. Well, there might hopefully be more news, Christian. We've got to just finish off on Anthony Elanga. I know we spoke about him a hell of a lot. I don't think I asked actually this one question the other day, which was, do you think the price that is potentially going to get paid by Newcastle, whether that's 55 pushing on to 60 with bonuses or whatever it is, do you think that's value for money? Do you think we're getting a good price there, or do you think there's more, especially with the talks about Antoine Semenyo and Bournemouth wanting 70 million for him, and then obviously he signed a new deal to kind of protect that value as well. What do you make of that price tag that Newcastle are going to potentially pay?
Semenyo one's a bit different because Bournemouth have already generated 100. Well, they've sold Hoyce and they've sold Kirkes, likely to sell Zabanya to PSG as well. So they're probably thinking, that's it, we're not selling anymore. So they're in a completely different situation to us, where we obviously haven't made any sales and we can't really put our foot down in that regard. Whereas potentially just selling Elanga on its own might help us put our foot down with other players, for example, like Gibbs White, or obviously it's allowed us to do Murillo, perfect example, of course, Murillo. So it's different because the circumstances are different. But do I think it's value for money? I think that's a going rate right now. I think you look at Kudus, he's going to go for about 60, 65. João Pedro's going to have gone for 60. I think Mbeumo's going to go for 65 if United can find that extra bit of money to get that job done. Knowing Forest Luck, he'll probably start against his first game of the season and score a hat-trick and go away, and that'll be it. But I think that is the going rate for a Prem-proven right wing. Obviously, you have to remember Elanga's age as well, he's 23. I do also feel that whether we've maybe sold him at peak value, and especially from a Forest perspective, peak value, I know obviously some of our fans wanted 70 million. I don't think that was realistic. I think that 60 was likely to be what it was, given his age and whatever else. But it's just how we replace him. And that's the main thing, to replace him. And also, I think as well, what is important is that, I didn't actually factor this in initially, is that if you're a young player, and take Bakayoko, for example, who he might well see Forest as a stepping stone move for him if he's as ambitious as we want it to be, which isn't a slight on us. We want players who think they've got it to play at the top, because obviously they'll help us massively on the way. But he'll probably look at that Elanga thing and think, right, okay, yeah, because had we held on to everyone as a young player coming in, you're sort of thinking, will they actually sell me if a Sky 6 club or elite side comes in? Which, if you look at Bournemouth and Brighton, for example, obviously an agent will say, yeah, look, take Mangula, for example. If he goes to Bournemouth, I'll say, look, they'll sell you if you do well. They won't sell you anyway. So obviously we haven't got, whereas other teams might put like a blocker in and sort of keep them and run the players from the contract down, and you become less desirable as a result. It's all, it's all part of a big song and dance and game, really. But going back to the point at hand, yeah, I think it's good value for money for Forest. We've got the fee that we wanted for. Newcastle are paying a going rate, and yeah, at least it's done early. At least it's not done, right at the end of the window. At least we haven't started the season and been thrown into this situation where we're panicking and scrambling to try and get someone in through the door to replace him. As Reece touched up on earlier, we're likely going to need 3 wingers. He would have been hell on earth trying to sort that out with 2 weeks of window left to go. So I'm just pleased it's come to an early conclusion. It's, I didn't want to see him leave, of course not, but it's a good financial deal for the club. And yeah,
I mean, Reece, when you look at it, nearly £110 million for Brennan Johnson and Anthony Elanga, you can't really grumble at the business, as we said the other day about liking the Brighton model and then not liking it when you've got to sell a player, as Christian put so poetically. Final thoughts on Elanga going to Newcastle, and do you think he'll do well there? Do you think he'll be a success at all?
Well, I mean,
taking off your Forest cap.
No, I mean, I'm gutted he's going, because I love Elanga, I do. He's a player who gets you on edge. You see when he's in full flight. You look like the Manchester United goal, for example, full flight running at their defence. He gets you on edge. You see the Ipswich one away where he bent it in that bottom corner. You go to football to watch them type of players when they're in full flight. So I'm gutted he's going. But obviously Forest run the club as a business. Mr. Marinakis runs it as a business, and have decided this is the route they're going to take. On the books, you're going to be booking a £40 million profit after we've paid Manchester United their little fee as well. So, look, it will be we don't know at the minute if it's the right decision or not, because we've not recruited anybody yet. Or we'll know if it's the right decision or not in probably Christmas time, when we've brought in wingers. And if they come in and do really well for us, it's going to be like Anthony Hu. If they come in and they don't work out first probably 6 months of the season, we're going to be pining for him, especially if he does well at Newcastle. I do think he'll do well at Newcastle, mate. I do. I really do. I'm not a fan of Newcastle, but I do like Eddie Howe. I think he's a very sensible manager. Works with young players, and I think he'll link up really well with Isak. But for Anthony's point of view, he has got to dislodge Murphy out of the team because he was brilliant for them last season. I mean, back end of the season, I even had him in the FPL team because he was scoring and assisting most weeks for him. So, look, obviously it's gutting for the fan because you never want to see players leave who are really good. I get it from a business perspective, and in the 2 seasons he's been at Forest, I think he's repaid his value and more. So, I thank him for what he's done for the club. And I would like to wish him luck, but obviously going to a team in the same league, so I can't really. And it's, as a former manager, you should say it's just fine margins, isn't it? 1 point behind Newcastle we finished last season. If Jerry Gillett maybe had added on a couple more minutes at St James's Park, we might have been swapping places, but such is football. But no, I can't grumble at Elanga. I really do like him, and I do think he'll be a success at Newcastle, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admire his professionalism and all this. It's obviously been quoted that he's not kicked up a fuss about leaving. Like you said, Reece, on the last pod, like it was probably a bit of an agreement, like he might want to go, but Forest he'll only let him go for a certain price. Yeah,
the one example I think I always refer back to with that was Matty Cash in the Championship when he went to Villa. It was clear that if Villa got to a certain amount, the club would let him go, but he didn't. He didn't force me. It's not like Riyad Mahrez at Leicester, where he basically, I think, went on strike. Mateus Nunes at Wolves to City. I mean, you've seen it now with Gorka. He's basically on the verge of going on strike to get this Arsenal move over. Like, he's even actually, I think, paying out his own money into to get the deal over the line. So, yeah, in this day of football, where if you want loyalty, as Roy Keane says, get a dog. Yeah, I admire him. That is actually not done wrong to the club, because he owes a lot to Forest. He does. He's repaid it with his performances, but Forest took a chance on him, 15 million, when Manchester United put him on the scrap heap, really, and we've built him into a really good player that he's going to become a Champions League player next season. And if Sweden get to the World Cup, obviously be playing in the World Cup at the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Christian, any last words on Anthony Elanga? Favourite moment? Because he's going to go. We may as well have one.
There's loads. I mean, Chelsea away was a big one, I think, because obviously bear in mind how terrible we were away in that first season up. To go at Chelsea in the first 5 games of the season and win, keep a clean sheet, and obviously him score, that was a big one. The goal against Spurs this season on Boxing Day, after all my Ange comments sort of justified that. That was quite satisfying. The hat-trick assist against Brighton. When you look at it and break it all down, he has such an impact on this football club, especially last season. There's been tough patches. Of course, it can happen to any player, any young player especially, but his determination to get through them and let his feet do the talking has been admirable. He's done that. He'll be a big loss for us. He'll be a big boost for Newcastle. I think he starts straight away, to be honest. And that front three of Gordon, Isak, and Elanga is probably the quickest front three in the league. So that's fair play to them for that. Favourite moment for Forest, though, it's got to be the United goal, in it at Old Trafford. I think Forest, having played 120 minutes a few days earlier, gone at penalties, he goes and does that regardless. Leaves Garnacho on his arse, just runs through the whole team and scores with his weaker foot. And the fact that we held out the whole game as well, despite those circumstances, was pretty magical. So, I think I'll go for that.
Yeah, Reece, any
They've got a bloody good midfield three behind them as well. They are building a side, Newcastle. You look at that front three, that midfield three, and you've got Livramento and Hall, who could be England's fullbacks for years to come. To sign James, I'm not a massive fan of James Trafford, but Eddie Howe seems really rated, and they are building a really, really good side up there, annoyingly. There's been so many, like Christian said, Chelsea away. I remember I was on holiday in Greece when watching that, and you're thinking, we've just signed all these players, and the season, you're really excited to see how the season's going to go, and then it obviously turned to a scrap with Luton. But like last season, like Christian said again, the Tottenham one, The Manchester United at home, where he just ran through the whole team. The hat-trick of assists against Brighton again. The 2 against Ipswich, mate. That finish at Ipswich, where he whipped it into that bottom left corner, that was such a brilliant finish. But for me, yeah, to be honest, it turned it around for him, didn't it? The Villa goal at home, because Jota coming to the side then, and it probably shows his character that, he didn't sulk and whinge. He let his football do the talking, got his way back into the side, got his way back into the Sweden setup. He's never looked back, and now he's ended up getting a good move for him. So, yeah, the Villa one for me, because, yeah, to turn that game around in the last 5 minutes, wasn't it? Him and Milenkovic, I think that would be the one for me. But there has been, quite a lot, and over 30 goal contributions in the Premier League over 2 seasons for a 23-year-old. I think that's brilliant, personally.
Yeah, you've both stolen my moments. So I think I'll just choose an assist, which is the assist for Hudson-Odoi's goal at Anfield. I mean, the one thing I think he might struggle with at Newcastle, he's not got his dad there no more. No Ola Aina. I mean, Ola Aina must have had a favourite. Callum must have been his favourite child. That's why Ola signed a new
Mad
deal.
Dog Tyndall instead to look after them. Also, another one as well, the Newcastle away game. Him and Wood became a combination. When we beat him 3-1 up there, it was, that's probably what pushed Eddie to really even like him even more. So
I could probably agree with that, to be honest. I think that's probably what put him in the shop window a little bit. So yeah, no, fair play to him. It's good for us in the end if we like you guys say, if we get recruitment. But that will kind of end it here. Thank you very much. We've had 341 people. If you do drop us a like, that would be superb. Obviously, like Facebook, like on YouTube and Twitter and all that. If you're new here, there's plenty of Christian rants at Ange Postecoglou, although he's not part of the Premier League anymore. Plenty of Football Manager related kind of similarities and everything else. Lots of Simpson memes and just pure Forest from match going fans. So no, yeah, hope you enjoy and come and join us for next season. So, but until next time, we'll see you all then. Come on, you Reds.